Hi there. Are you somebody who struggles with difficult emotions? Perhaps you are overwhelmed with grief or sadness, and you sometimes feel like you get stuck in these emotions. Well, if so, friend, then this video is for you. Hi there, my name is Morgan Risden, and I'm the creator of Center Studio, where I teach people skills to feel more comfortable more often. Now, before we get started, friend, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm glad that you're here, and I'd love if you take a moment to hit the subscribe button. Also, that notification bell lets you know anytime I make a video like this. Now, in today's video, I want to talk to you about all of the emotions that we have that can oftentimes lead to us feeling stuck, right? Those difficult emotions like grief or sadness that really can imprint themselves on us physically and can cause us a lot of distress if we're not careful and if we're not paying attention to the impact that those feelings are having on us. I felt moved to make this video today, I think because of the 20th anniversary of the attacks of 9/11, which impacted so many of us. As I was reflecting on this date, I was thinking about its importance to myself and my family that we were really recognizing even 5 years prior to the attacks. And what I mean by that is that September 11th happens to be the birthday of my brother, who passed away 5 years before 9/11. And this was a day that I feel, my parents and I were always sort of sad, and his absence was really felt, right? We really experienced a loss, a void in our family from him. And I think after 9/11 attacks, there was this sort of awareness that I had that now I had permission to be sad or to grieve and to physically be able to show that without fear of people asking me what's wrong or are you okay, right? There was sort of this undertone for many people who just sort of understood that this day is a significant day, that it brings about a lot of emotions for so many people. And so it went without question. People didn't question you anymore on September 11th when you were upset or when you were sad. And I was thinking when I was reflecting on this about how so often, because of our need to move through emotions quickly or to avoid them completely in some cases because we feel we have to show up, we have to put on a smile, we have to go to work, right? Can't sit around crying all day. We don't really always give ourselves the appropriate amount of space and time that we ultimately need in order to properly grieve and to heal. And when I say things like properly heal, I don't mean that there's like one way to do it. I mean, whatever your way is, okay? Whatever you need in order to move through those emotions and those feelings. And I think for so many people, we sort of, I'll deal with that later, or I don't want to deal with that, so I will avoid it. And oftentimes that leads, honestly, folks, to pain and discomfort. So in my own personal experience after the death of my brother, I definitely collapsed. I was sort of this very, rounded shoulders, short in the spine, head forward individual. I just had a lot of emotions that were trapped inside my body that physically my body was expressing. And what I mean by that is that you could clearly look at me and see like, oh, she's sad. Oh, she's had events that cause her grief or sorrow. And this really ultimately hurt me. In the long run, this wasn't a great way to deal with trauma or to deal with the sadness. But I was young. I didn't want to do therapy. I didn't want to deal with any of my emotions or my feelings. And as a result, my body reflected that, right? And I think that's a really common form of escapism and avoidance. And, it's like, I don't want to deal with it. I got to get up, get dressed, go to work, put on a happy face. And sometimes we can, it works. For all intents and purposes, like our coping mechanisms work, but they're not necessarily sustainable. We can't necessarily keep doing that and expecting to feel great and feel good because, friends, your body doesn't lie. It's going to hurt you in the long run. And I think that a lot of us don't always recognize that our bodies are also experiencing these moments of sadness and grief. And if we don't give ourselves permission to experience those emotions, to allow our bodies to experience it and move through them, sometimes we get stuck. And there's a wonderful video that a woman who I follow on YouTube posted last year. And she was sharing a very personal moment when she found out that a dear friend of hers had died. So she pulled her car literally on the way to the grocery store. She pulled over and she recorded this video that she shared. And she's a mental health specialist. So her YouTube channel is Therapy in a Nutshell. And she shares all these wonderful tips and such on mental health. And so she was sharing in this very personal moment, hey, look, I too have feelings, right? Just because I'm a therapist and I help people with this doesn't mean that I move through them quickly or that I don't experience these emotions. In fact, I think she even said at one point, like, I feel a lot. I feel, like a lot. And I think what she did in that video was show that it's okay to go through those emotions. She talked about it as a wave, that you experience sort of a wave of overcoming emotions, that there is sadness and there's, this grief that's sort of overwhelming her, and yet she knows she's going to be okay. And I think that what's really lacking for a lot of us is that in those moments we don't, give ourselves permission, right, to feel these feelings. So a lot of distraction, a lot of escapism, avoidance, because we don't want to deal with it. And we don't acknowledge maybe that our body is dealing with it. Your body is feeling all the feelings, even if you don't want to think about it, right, or acknowledge it. And at one moment, she really beautifully illustrates this because her daughter, so she shows that, hey, I was on the way to the grocery store, and she shows the camera to her minivan with her children, waiting for her as she records this video. And her daughter at one point opens the door and yells out something that her mom's like, I don't know, this has something to do about a toilet and a bush. She's like, I don't know what that's about, but I'll find out in a minute. And she smiles, right? Like a flash of a smile comes across her face, and you can kind of see her perk up, and you almost can tell like there's this just loving bond. She's connecting with her children, and it's just a split second. And then she comes back to the video and she's feeling again these feelings that are washing over her in the moment as she's taking in the realization that her friend has passed away. And what I love about that moment is it just illustrates that you can have sort of these conflicting emotions and feelings that are coexisting at the same time. I feel like we are in a society where it's, you're either sad or you're happy. And I just don't think that's a reality. I think most of life is very gray, and we experience complex feelings sort of intermingled. But we can have both feelings, happiness and sadness, humor and sadness. You can have those coexisting at the same time. The thing that I'm going to suggest is going to help you feel better using these emotions is by not ignoring them, by letting them, as she recommends, wash over you like a wave. And when it happens, you can compress. You can come down, you can slump, be in a fetal position, collapse. But if something makes you smile, if something lights you up, come up a little bit, come out a little bit. Allow yourself a temporary moment to come back into your full length and width, and then maybe you go back to compressing, you go back to slouching or slumping or being in this sort of fetal position where you feel like your heart is protected. But again, the moment that something, brings joy into your mind or into your heart, let your body also experience that, right? So that your body is equally experiencing these same emotions. So I hope that you found this video helpful today. If you did, my friend, be sure to hit the like button. That helps me out a lot. Until next time, take care. Ciao.